Maybe start with the present, which is like, you're exploding. Everybody wants a Mapan, right? So what does it feel like now? Your life, your process, is it hard to work? Is it hard to concentrate? Do you like the acclaim and the attention? What's your emotional reality right now?
It's difficult. Mixed a good word. It just went from like 20% to 200% in like one day. I need to handle that. Like ultimately, any artist, I think, wants to have like their art out there, and so everyone can have it and can experience it and can love it. But with NFTs and now, I feel like anything I share is taken as something I'm gonna mint, which totally not. Sometimes just because I just like sharing my progress and my process and my work, basically. When, you know, that famous question. And at the same time, last year, that like I had a child, and this new dynamic with my child and this new visibility is really a weird mix to handle.
Because you're getting pulled inside and outside at the same time. Your child is pulling you to be home, and then you collectors are pulling you to mint more and be out there more.
Exactly this sensation of like making art, taking care of my family, and being out there, meeting people, being there at events, everything. Like those three components are impossible, so I need to remove one. At the same time, it's exciting, and I realize I'm really lucky as an artist to be able to do this full time, and that people really push me forward and support me.
In terms of, how and when and where you like to work, what was it like before you had your son and after your son? And
I would say that being consistent, like the most difficult times for me when I wanted to create was when I had my son, basically. Like when I made Dragons, Mathis was like 5 months old, something like that. Super hard because, at that time, he's awake when you want to sleep. So I don't know how I did, but basically when he was sleeping, I was creating. Before that, I really had a habit of creating every day, basically. Even if I don't share it, just make something. I'm a sports person, like I do a lot of sports, and I know that habits are really important. And I try to apply this same logic with my artistic process. And I was doing this before NFT, so I had a full-time job by day. So it was mostly by night. During NFTs allows me to be full-time on this, which is really interesting because I see my progress skyrocketing. I have like a little sketchbook where I put a lot of ideas, a lot of notes, a lot of just sketches, and now I have much more time as well to think. What am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Is it good? Is it bad? I have much more questions than before, basically. I have a bunch of books. I like to explore history, to study the masters I see as really good. Even right now, I have this book on my desk, and I just like exploring history of art because I think generative art is an interesting movement, and I try to see how it integrates into this whole history of art, basically. So it sounds like very organized. But it's not at all organized.
Have you come up with a title yet for the drop here in Mexico?
Still discussing. Like I have one, but I'm not sure it's the best. 1935, because basically like one of my hero artists, Annie Albers.
And she was a weaver, right? She taught embroidery.
Yeah, started their trip to Mexico in 1935, and from this point on, like I can see how their art evolved. Like Mexico really inspired them with all the patterns, the motifs, the colors as well. In Mexico, there is this place called Monte Alban.
Near Oaxaca.
Yeah, you have a lot of photos like that. Temples, ruins, but in there you have a lot of patterns. How can I interpret this? And she started making stuff like that. So it's not about randomness, but more about interpretation. I wanted to go on that path. It's more like of I wouldn't say like a love letter because my girlfriend would be pissed. like open letter to Annie Albert to say, I found what you found and this is what I'm doing this with my time. If you had my tools at your time, what would you do? I don't think we can invent new stuff like out of nowhere. It's only a progression, on the path of history. I like to stand on the shoulders of my elders and make it my own, basically.
Have you ever done weaving or embroidery or fabrics before? Is this the first time that you've played with that kind of surface?
Yeah, I did some Western classes in Paris because I wanted to understand better. There is a strong connection between weavings and generative art. Make patterns like a system that repeats. And the only thing we have with generative art is the random component in addition. With weaving, you have to make your system super strong at the beginning to be solid, and then you execute. It's really interesting for me to explore as well the craft. It's crazy because it's so hard. It requires so much patience.
If we look at dragons or anticyclones, in both cases they feel very tactile when you look at them. It feels very physical in a way, and whether it's the gradients or the backgrounds, like so clear the way you described Annie Albers coming, I imagine with her husband Joseph, to Mexico in 1935 and going to Mount Alban and seeing native crafts. Did you have that kind of image in your mind for the other projects?
In my case, I really like to practice on the side with my hand. The way out of the computer relieves me. It's so peaceful. You're in your own bubble, your creative bubble. You have no distraction. You're just in front of your table and you have to make something, basically. So I like to take those times, and I like colored pencils. I like gouache. I like acrylic. I like a bunch of stuff. Like paper. I have a ton of paper. My living room is a mess, basically. There is stuff everywhere. It's not about a performance, about recreating perfectly the paper, or it's mostly about connecting. In human history, painting has been a strong vector of communication.
What about the reveal process? Will the works be revealed at once, or will they slowly reveal?
I wanted them to be like a weaving experience. Line by line, it will build. And I think when you see it line by line, drawing, you're like, oh my God, that's long, but at the same time, it's exciting because you see the patterns building up. Is the weaving that I'm seeing, or is it the painting?
What are the key attributes and how are you naming them?
Density, basically, and if it will be very small or very, very high, it has a completely different mood. The colors, I tried to do my researches on Annie Albert's work, and then I adapted it to my work because it doesn't work all the time on the screen or digitally. And sometimes I try to do the different colors but no contrast. So you're like, is there different colors in this piece, or there'll be few palettes with 2 or 3 colors and some with monochrome.
Will monochrome be rare?
I think they all look good and they all have the same impact. I'm not sure I want to have varieties because I think they all deserve to be seen. I made one mistake, I would say, with Anticyclone is to put some varieties with the palettes. Some combination didn't show through because I had loads of parameters with Anticyclone, way too many, I think.
When you're doing long form work, how is your approach different when you know there's going to be 100 outputs versus 1,000 like you had with Anticyclones?
Focus on 1 or 2 things, but push them a lot. Make them very different. We
really appreciate you. We wish you could be here. We understand you have a little one at home, but maybe you'll come to Tokyo in the spring because he'll be older. Good to see you. Good to talk to you. Thank you, William.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, man.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.